A few years ago, I asked an extraordinary woman by the name of Alison Elwood to come and speak as part of the Leadership Development Program at the University of Toronto Scarborough. And Alison's passion was sharing the story of her bike trip from Victoria, BC, all the way to Cape Spear, Newfoundland. And she took that trip so that she could personally collect the stories of Canadian women who were battling or who had beaten breast cancer. Because Alison said that that story is the story of our time. And her mother had become a part of that story. And she said, when I saw what happened to my mom after she was diagnosed, when she had the chance to hear the stories of other survivors, those stories saved my mom's life. And I want to make sure that any woman in this country who's diagnosed with breast cancer, and it's going to be 1 in 5 Canadian women, has the opportunity to hear stories like that, has the opportunity to feel the type of hope that my mom felt from hearing those stories. So she wanted to go all the way across the country and put these into a book. And so I brought her in, she shares this story. And it's one of those stories that when you hear it, you want to change the freaking world. And I watched her as she told it, and she talked about all the training that went into it. She talked about the fight she had to have with her parents so they let her actually do it. And she talked about the decision to not go into the workforce with her grad degree and instead take this trip. And while she's telling this story, I'm watching the students, and they're all starting to look at her as what she is, this extraordinary woman, someone to look up to, someone to emulate, until the very end of the story. And then one of the students puts up their hand and says, "Where did you go to school?" And Alison laughs. And she says, "You know what? A better question is, where didn't I go to school?" She goes, "You know what? I dropped out of a bunch of colleges and universities because I couldn't find the one that worked for me. I couldn't find the one that made me feel like I could be the most me possible." And the change that happened in the audience of university students when she said that, I will never forget, because she almost instantaneously went from someone to look up to a cautionary tale. I watched a room full of U of T students look at this woman who had biked across Canada for that cause as if she had done something wrong, because she had decided that dropping out was an option she's willing to explore to try to figure out where her life is supposed to go. And I realized at that moment how extraordinarily powerful the list is. And every single person in this room has a list of things in your head that you think you need to do for your life to be considered a success. And I watch how powerful it is in the young people I work with. And any deviation from that list, no matter how extraordinary, no matter how much good it might do a life or a group of lives, if you're really looking for success, deviating from the list is reckless. It's downright stupid. And I think the list goes a little something like this. Go to kindergarten and play nice. Go to elementary school and do what the teacher tells you. Go to high school so you can go to university. Go to university so that you can go to grad school. Graduate grad school so that you can get a big, fat starting salary. Get promoted. Get yourself into a serious long-term relationship. Get promoted. Get married. Get promoted. Buy a house. Get promoted. Have kids. Get promoted a couple more times. Retire and make sure your kids do exactly the same thing. And I watch us sometimes treat our life like it is some sort of giant scavenger hunt. And we were all handed the exact same card at the beginning with that list on it, and we were told, race to the end, get all the check marks you can before someone beats you there. And I was totally willing to play that game. I loved that game because I was told very early in my life, you have the skills to kick the list's ass, so we expect that from you. So I got obsessed with filling out this list. And then one day, well, I'm tremendously stressed out because I haven't checked something off in time. I had one of those days where it was the most scary, the most frustrating, and at the same time, most liberating day in my life. Because I looked down at this list of things that I thought that I had to do for my life to be considered success. This list of things that I had to be for me to feel like I was a person of worth. And for the first time in my life, I realized that I hadn't written the list. That was someone else's list. I was living somebody else's agenda. And ladies and gentlemen, regardless of what the list is in your head that you feel that you have to fill out so that you can feel like your life is worthwhile, all I ask you today is please make sure that you wrote the list. Please make sure that it's yours. Because if you live your life chasing a list of somebody else's goals, you will always feel unfulfilled. What I love about Alison Elwood, what I admire about Alison Elwood, is she keeps making changes in her life until it is a life that she wants and the life that she deserves. And I think every now and then we need to remind ourselves that we have the right to do that too. As a matter of fact, I think we have an obligation to ourselves to keep making changes in our life until it is a life that we want and the life that we deserve. But that list is so powerful. It tells us don't. It tells us give up your passion. It doesn't make sense. It tells us to walk away from things that might make us happy because it might screw up the list. Why does the list exist if not to lead us to happiness? Every single year, we tell thousands of students, if you just work hard enough, it will all pay off in the end. Except we never tell them how hard is hard enough. We do a really lousy job helping them define what they want the payoff in their life to be, and we never tell them when the end will come. If you just work hard enough, it will all pay off in the end. I think it is at best a half-truth, and I think it does tremendous damage to too many young people. Because I've watched it make thousands of young people believe that what their professors think of them, and what their teachers think of them, and what their future potential employers think of them is somehow more important than what they think of themselves. And I've watched it make too many young people believe that the entire educational experience is simply to figure out what the market values, learn that, and turn around and offer it back to the market, regardless if it has anything to do with your skills, with your gifts, or with your passions. And worst of all, I think it makes the artists and the musicians and the entrepreneurs and the change agents and all of these brilliant people whose brilliance cannot be measured by essays and tests. It says to them, your gifts are not gifts at all. Your talents are only talents if they can be monetized. Otherwise, they should just be hobbies. How old do you think a child has to be in our education system before they realize what they love, what they're good at, what they're passionate about, isn't what the system values? How old do you think they are before they realize that teachers are looking at them and saying, this one probably isn't going to be very good at filling out the list? They're what, 7? Maybe 8? How different would our society be if we stopped doing that to 8-year-olds? I honestly believe the education system is the most powerful, the most freeing, the most extraordinary, and at the same time, the most dangerous and oppressive system that we have. And my passion, the one I try to own, is to share some simple ideas with everybody who's killing themselves to impress the current education system, and ask people like you to help me spread them. And here's what those ideas are. 1, you are more brilliant than you give yourself credit for, and you are far more brilliant than the current education system is set up to adequately measure. 2, school is the last place in your life that you will spend time where the ability to do well on a test is valued more than the ability to do something, or build something, or change someone. And that success and leadership shouldn't be measured by money and by titles, and a 4.0 GPA will not get you a direct path there. Success and leadership come from striving to act every single day in a way that makes it more likely that you're going to have a positive impact on your life and the life of the other people around you. And finally, you should work incredibly hard to make your marks extraordinary. You should. Your marks will open doors. They'll kick down doors. Your transcript is an incredibly important part of your life. It is not a measure of your worth as a human being. You should work incredibly hard to make your marks extraordinary, and then work twice as hard to make sure that they are the least impressive thing about you. And if you do that, success will follow you all the days of your life. We have got to stop treating a list that we think leads to success as a prison. I was once taking a train trip across Canada, and I met a woman going from Toronto to Vancouver to meet a guy that she met on the internet. But both of them were afraid of flying, so this was the only way they'd ever meet each other. And she says, I know that this seems crazy, but let me ask you a question. How far would you be willing to go for the chance to be happier? And I want you to ask yourselves that, because when she asked that, at that point in my life, it was like a punch in the stomach, because I realized for my personal answer, it was I wouldn't go very far. Because I looked at the list, and according to the list, I had everything that should make me happy in my life. And I wasn't, and I knew it. But I was afraid to make changes in my life because I was afraid what I was going to end up with was worse than what I had. And then I realized, I looked at what I had and thought, I don't even like that. My life is okay. I was 32 years old, and I was willing to settle for okay. Guys, I don't think we can lead other people until we can lead ourselves. And I think the start of leading ourselves is being able to ask ourselves honestly, in what part of my life, in my job, in my health, in my relationships, in what part of my life am I settling? And then say, I will not do it for one more day. Whoever you are in this audience, whatever stage of your life you're at, however old you are, please know you were too young to settle, not for one more day. Guys, thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.